everyone, I am Matt Williamson. How's it going? Things are good on this end. We are in the middle of OTAs, but as I've told you many times, please don't react to OTA reports. Most of that is manufactured / fake news. And I know this is list season. I've made many of them, especially during my ESPN.com days. And I have found a few, and then today we're going to talk about some guys, some Steelers where they end up on lists. And NBC Sports, it was Pat Doherty who does good work, goes by RotoPat. He does this every year. He ranks all the head coaches 1 to 32 and all the GMs 1 to 32. This year's head coach ranks haven't come out yet, but GMs have. And Omar Khan comes in 19th out of 22. And to his credit, the authors, the guys that have not even had a season yet didn't even count. There's 3 or 4 at the bottom that are unranked. Fair. But that also applies to Omar too. I mean, the guys that are going to be high on this list, and frankly, as I've mentioned, I've written a lot of these lists, and they get clicks, they get conversations. Heck, we're talking about it right now. But doing a GM ranking would be really difficult. So I kind of feel for the author on this one. And obviously, you're going to have the guys with much, much bigger bodies of work higher. So I like the write-up he gives for Omar, though. Like, for example, Kevin Colbert was always very high. Rightfully so. I think he's one of those rare GMs that probably gets in the Hall of Fame, and I think he deserves that. Now, this is going to start off kind of negative towards Kevin, but facts are facts. You know what I mean? So here's the write-up. 1 division, 2 legendary retiring GMs. But Ozzie Newsome left Eric DeCosta, Lamar Jackson, while Kevin Colbert left Omar Khan, Kenny Pickett. Those are facts, you know. I mean, you'd rather be left with Lamar. No, you know what I mean? That means that means Khan is going to be graded on a curve for the foreseeable future, but he's already made one great quarterback decision, cutting his losses with Pickett. Fair, right? I mean, he stepped up and looks to have created or righted a wrong, or at least moved away from a problematic situation. So Pickett has been shipped out, while Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have been brought in on the cheap to try to create some semblance of a post-Roethlisberger momentum. Fair. I mean, didn't have a lot of cards to deal with in the quarterback market, but played a lot of cards. Khan's rosters have managed to go 19-15 with a 2023 playoff qualification. You know, not bad. The 2023 draft class produced 5 17-game players, including starters Broderick Jones, Joey Porter, and now Keanu Benton. Promising first step in the post-Colbert void. Nick Herbig also looks like a solid day 3 pick. It's never easy, but Khan's initial weathering of someone else's quarterback bust suggests it won't be as hard as it could have been. I think that's a pretty fair write-up. Now, the ranking, we could fight about it. I think we're all Omar fans. I very much am. But he has a 1.5 years body of work. I mean, he only has 1 full season and 2 off seasons. Then the second one isn't even complete. So can you put him over the Chiefs? You know what I mean? Of course not. Because this is a somewhat lifetime achievement award type of situation. That being said, some of the things that really impress me with Omar are obviously his financial background, the way he handles contracts. And I'm not talking about not overpaying. I'm just always has financial flexibility. And since he's taken over, that has greatly increased too. I mean, we talked about this last week. They have gobs of cap space for future years. They don't have a lot of guaranteed money tied up in anyone. And the roster isn't bad. I mean, that's a wonderful balance. I also really appreciate the way Khan moves around on draft day, doesn't just sit there static and happy with the picks that were given to him. But even more so, we've only seen 2 drafts, but even more so, they're always churning the bottom of the roster. And I think that's what good teams do. You know, go get an Eric Rowe, or, you know what I mean? Those type of moves that don't move the needle massively, but your coach is sure appreciated on game day. And I think that goes a long way. So I am very happy with Omar Khan as the GM. The fact that he comes in 19th on this ranking doesn't change my opinion at all. And again, I've been in those shoes as a list writer. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NBA, and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I've referenced this a little. Speaking of lists, it is list season. That Pro Football Focus, almost on a daily basis, has been putting out positional ranks. And they did last week, and I gathered some of them up and wanted to talk about it. And starting with Pat Freiermuth, they ranked the tight ends. And he came in 15th. And I will say the league is a lot richer at tight end than it has been that I can remember, to be honest with you. I mean, the stalwarts like Kelsey and Kittle are still holding on and are very high on all lists, or should be. That class with, Darnell Washington's class, but Laporta and Kincaid and all those dudes are extremely promising. You know, Trey McBride the year before that. So there's a lot of young guys, Pitts. And it's a good group. I mean, the Dallas Goddards of the world and the Jokus. So it's not as easy to move up this list as you would think. Do I have a problem with Freiermuth being 15? No, not based off most recent evidence. But I'll bet everything I have, if he stays healthy, he'll be in the top 10 next year. And that's not just because he's set up to be the number 2 target as we speak on the team, but that doesn't hurt. I just think he's a really good all-around player that's developed as a blocker. He's never going to be an assassin, but can certainly be utilized so much more in the passing game. So this is what they said about Freiermuth. After producing well as a rookie and taking it up a notch in 2022, Freiermuth battled through injuries in 2023, and his play took a dip as well. With better quarterback play in 2024 and a healthy season, Freiermuth should bounce back as a solid weapon over the middle of the field. Couldn't agree more. And I do think we have to address the injuries. I mean, there's been a little hard to count on, you know. I mean, that would make me sleep a little better if you could put in a real strong, durable 2022 season. Although I think he's going to get paid before that, and I would as well. I think Omar's going to make that happen. And again, I think that's the right move. I don't think he's a special player, but he runs really well. He's got good ball skills. He could certainly be used down the seam and down the field. But he's not special. I mean, I think he's really good and a high quality player. And you invest in those guys. And I think the offseason indicates they agree with me. You know, I mean, as it sets up, he's the number 2 receiver. So, and if they pay him, everything we just talked about will basically be true, you know, and now it's on him. But yeah, I think he's about 15. I bet he ends up 9 a year from now. So I'm fine with that. One more I wanted to discuss was off the ball linebackers. Patrick Queen comes in 7th in the entire league. Now, the off the ball linebacker landscape in the league, it's a lot of L's, is pretty interesting. I mean, to me, there's Fred Warner and Roquan Smith. And then who's number 3? Like, I think they have Demario Davis from the Saints. Really good player that nobody understands how good he is. He's been doing it a really long time. But there's 2 elite dudes. It's Roquan, it's Warner, that do everything. And then there's just a middle class. And with the season Queen had, I don't think 7 is crazy. Now, I feel more comfortable that Freiermuth will move up from 15 then Queen will move up from 7. Obviously, it's harder to do the closer you are to the top. And I'm not saying he's peaked out, but if the Steelers get the 7th to 10th best off-the-ball linebacker for what they're paying this guy, that's a home run. I mean, every down linebackers are really hard to find. Roquans and Warners are like impossible to find now. The days of just thumping between the tackles and making a lot of, with a neck roll are long gone, of course. And Queen can do a lot. So here's what they said about him. One of the most aggressive linebackers in football since being drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft. That's definitely true. And some of it worked against him early in his career, but aggression is not a problem for Queen. Queen is always ranked among the top players of the position in positively graded plays. Something I've told you for a while. He makes a lot of splash plays. It makes me think of 2 years ago. I mean, remember when the linebackers in 2022 combined for like 1 sack, 0 forced fumbles, no interceptions, no fumble recoveries. That's like almost impossible to do. Queen, much like we talk about the quarterbacks, is going to provide splash. Particularly impressive about his development is how he's reduced his negatively graded plays. Very true. And a lot of people say, well, that's because Roquan showed up. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it isn't, but he really did take his game up a lot once Roquan was acquired halfway through a year ago. That being said, that's also when most linebackers pick up their play. I mean, it takes a while. So the Steelers are buying him at the right time. In 2020, he earned a negative grade on 14% of his snaps, but he brought that number down each year all the way to just 7.6% in 2023. Exactly what I was telling you. Like a lot of times the aggression would work against him and his speed and his athleticism and misreading something and he flies the wrong way. I mean, that's not uncommon for these young linebackers, the way that people manipulate them and Kittle on a crosser while you're biting on play action against McCaffrey. That stuff's brutal, but he is absolutely trending the right way. And like almost every basically every first round linebacker that's been drafted in the last 10 years, he's an elite, it's a big word, physical specimen, explosive, fast, change of direction, all the physical stuff you look for. So you match him with the other three. I mean, the Steelers off-the-ball linebackers could be awesome. We talked about that a lot last week. But him at 7, I think, should open your eyes a little bit of what he really is. I mean, the second tier is pretty murky in the league, but he's definitely in it. And the first tier guys are out of this world Hall of Famer types. But I thought that was fun. Queen at 7. And if he holds there, great, I'm in. Freiermuth at 15. I think he'll go up. I mean, better that position. And Khan at, what was he, 19 or whatever? Who cares, really? But I think that 3, 4, 5 years from now, we could be talking about one of the better GMs in the league. If he keeps up the rate he's done, and I understand his process, and it's a lot different than how it was around here before. So, good stuff. We'll probably mailbag it up tomorrow and then go from there. All right, take care.